Good evening, everyone, or afternoon or morning. I'm a little earlier. I saw there was a few people waiting, so I just started out a little earlier. So the title of the live stream is this going to be a buy the dip opportunity or a stock market crash? I think we can clearly say, even though some people think markets move, doesn't matter the news or the headlines or the stories, they move on their own. But I think we can say that what's happening in China with the coronavirus is having a big impact on markets. So Lee Miller thinks it's buy the dip opportunity. Matthew Glint or PAXG. I know Glint. I don't know PAXG, so I couldn't say which one's safer. David Rodriguez should talk about Brexit. I don't think there's much to say, at least for me. I don't think anything has changed, except that we have a less layer of government from Brussels, but I don't think it's going to be, we're going to get less government in the UK. I don't see that. I don't see our country paying off the debt. I don't see the monetary system changing. I don't see the debt decreasing. I don't see taxes going down. I'm seeing actually more government spending. First 3 weeks of this year, the UK Treasury issued £14 billion more. So that's what I'm concerned about. The purchasing power of the currency that we're forced to use. Yeah, Brexit is a big distraction. I think not really sure anything's going to change drastically. The next year, we'll have to wait. Andy from Devon. Hi, Andy, Southwest England. Mr. H from Iowa. Lord Humongous. What nice to see you. Yeah, Billy's here. Lila. Will crude oil keep going down? I think it could, especially. I think it's still very uncertain. That's the other thing about the markets. I think they're going to be very volatile. And that's why last week I did a few trades in the markets. They went fairly well. I closed them out. And I'm watching the markets a bit more now. I might do a few things with options because options are safe. And I've been taking some notes, like looking at the VIX index, silver, and the S&P options. So that's what I'm going to be looking at this week. And maybe it doesn't matter if it goes up and down. I think as long as the markets move sharply either way, which is something we haven't seen lately, the last few years, it's a good opportunity if you are into trading. But I do it very safe. I do it through options, so I think that's pretty safe. You know how much you can lose. Gutem Roland thinks the stock market is fake, so we'll probably continue up. Yeah, are we going to have a bigger week than last week? Maybe. I saw, I don't know if you guys saw, the Chinese announced 1.2 trillion in stimulus for the markets starting on Monday. That's about 174 billion reverse repos to help liquidity. So I've been looking at the weekend markets on IG Index. Earlier on today, the Dow was down 200. Right now, it's down 27. The Hong Kong Hang Seng was down 300. Now it's down 129. So it seems to have calmed things down a little bit. But I think, who was it? Someone said that the markets are fake and they're going to keep going up. Yeah, that's what most people think. But there will come a time where there will be a trigger. And I think I'm not saying this coronavirus is the trigger or the black swan, but there's a good chance that it could be. And even if central banks like the Chinese today announced, or the Fed, or the Bank of England, or ECB, even if they try to help things out, it might not help, because this could be serious, because it could affect the consumer spending, and the modern fiat currency economy is based on consumption, very much dependent on credit, easy credit. And if the public is not participating, it could trigger some collapses of companies, and that could create a domino effect. So I think it's interesting times. Am I saying if there is a crash, it's going to crash from 28,000 in the Dow to like 10 right away? No, I think it could be the beginning, like the top, and it could take over a year for it to correct quite a bit. We do have some important support levels, I think around 27,000 in the Dow that we have to hold, 27,200, which is like a support line now. It used to be a resistance. Petrodollar opinion, John Roberts. Yeah, that's an interesting question, because actually I'd forgotten. I looked at a story, and there's two stories. There's one from last year at Jackson Hole that Mark Carney from the Bank of England said the world should be diversify, not be too dependent on the petrodollar. And I saw as well that the UK, the EU, Switzerland, Japan, and some other countries in the BIS are working together to develop digital currencies, digital fiat currencies, and the US is not working with them. So yeah, I think the petrodollar, other countries are trying to diversify away from it. So that will mean less demand for dollars or petrodollars going forward. As I've said, this kind of stuff doesn't happen overnight, but I think the trend is down. So that means higher cost of living for Americans, because the dollar is going to be, there's going to be less demand abroad for dollars. So the dollars are not going to be as valuable as they are now. So your imports and commodities are going to be worth more. Hope that helps. That's my view on petrodollar. We got quite a few people already, 150, and it's just 9 o'clock now, so that's good. Of course, today for Americans is the Super Bowl. I used to follow football, American football, when I was at university in the States, but not so much in the UK. It's also Groundhog Day today, by the way. And the other interesting thing about today's date, it's that it's the a palindrome. So 02/02/2020 is the same date backwards. And the last time we had that was, I think, 11th of November, 1111. So 909 years ago. Just an interesting fact about the numbers. Kathy Robinson, will gold and cryptos go up? Do you mean this week or in general? In general, I think the trend for gold, precious metals, is for the fiat currencies to devalue against them, so they're going to go up. Next week, we had a good close to the week last week, around 1590 in gold, which is actually above a level of 1586, which is like an important retracement that I have from the all-time high at 1920 and the low December 2015 at 1045. It's the 61.8% retracement, which is the golden mean. And we closed at 1590, not only for the week, but also for the month. So yeah, I think medium to longer term gold remains positive. On a day-to-day basis, it could fluctuate. Cryptos, I think, are looking better right now. They're moving up quite a bit. So yeah, I think cryptos are looking okay. Just gonna have a bit of water. I just wanted to ask you guys, because I made a video this morning, or I published it this morning, and it's an audio format. And I wrote a piece about Bretton Woods and what happened in 1971. For some reason, it's not getting as many views as I usually get. Just wondering if you like that format. I'm not going to change completely to that format, but I'm going to do that more often. Pad thinks the bigger number on Friday was 1588.20. Yeah, that had been a recent high, but I had a 1586, which is this retracement level. So yeah, it's very close. I think we closed just above there. Oh, Pad liked the video. That's good. Economic history. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Sometimes it's not all the time, but I'm getting videos where I get a lot less views than I used to, but that's the way it goes. Just have to keep at it. Any format that has Billy is good. Unfortunately, Billy wasn't on that one, nor was I. Lily Robin, I think the detainment for coronavirus to get the sheeple used to government detaining you with no trial or charges possible. There's a lot of speculation about this coronavirus. And one thing I would say, I listened to Greg Hunter's interview with Catherine Austin Fitts, and she seems to think she's more worried about vaccines that they might want to push on people because of this virus than the virus itself. And I tend to think Catherine Austin Fitts is on top of things. So I think she's right about that. But whatever reason this virus is out there, if it's just happened or if it was manufactured, whatever, it could have an impact on the economy. So that's what I'm here to look at as well. Yeah, Lord Humongous, silver is looking really frustrating still. Yeah, it's due to move higher. I agree with you. Pad calls on GDX. Yeah, Pad. The thing is, I use my IG index, which is a spread betting platform in the UK, and the reason I use that is because it's tax-free betting, and the options they have are mostly on indices, commodities, and currencies. So we don't have options in those. Last week, I did a trade on silver. I don't know if you remember. I said I bought an 1850 call when silver dropped 1750, and that worked quite well. I took profit on that, and I bought put on the S&P. That worked well as well, and I closed it out. That's the thing. I made a video, I think it was yesterday, about important rules of trading, and I'm victim to making mistakes as well. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but knowing before putting a trade, you need to have some kind of objective of where to get out, even if you're making money. If you try to sit and hope to get more, it could turn against you and you end up losing. That's a good rule, I think, and it's tough to follow. Yeah, Menho Donahue, the injection, $174 billion. Yeah, that's probably helped a little bit, but I've also read that there's some loans maturing tomorrow, a trillion. So they injected up 1.2 trillion, and the trillion is maturing. So net is not that much. I think it's going to be very choppy. people expect the Chinese market to open 6 to 8% lower, mainly because they've been closed since January 24th. Greg Manorino says if market drops Monday, he will short the market. What I'm doing personally is like the other day, I didn't see why silver should have dropped so much, so I just bought a call. So what I'm going to do is be watching the markets. If I see some unusual intraday moves, like a really sharp move higher in stocks or down, I might just buy a call or put, not spend too much on it. Very little expenditure, but the potential is quite good on the upside. And the same thing with silver. If silver opens tonight and they whack it again to 1750, I'll buy a call, like an 1850 call. Let's see. I was reading some stuff here. Yeah, China unveils emergency market support in response to deadly virus. And I was reading as well that the Reserve Bank of Australia is meeting this week, and they think they might cut because of the bushfires. So everyone in central banks seem to be the solution to everything, and I think people are going to realize that's not the fact, that central banks can't solve all the problems. And I think we could have a rude awakening with this coronavirus situation. I saw as well that the U.S. Declared a quarantine on U.S. citizens coming back from Hubei province in the last 14 days. So, and I saw that the first victim fatality outside China was in the Philippines. Quite a few people today. That's good. 206. Thumbs up. I only got 50. Come on. Yeah, the watcher, we're doing well. Thank you. Billy and I are doing well. Cole, the 6 to 8% drop was what people thought where the market would open. I guess that was before that injection. But I think they're taking out, they're putting in 1.2 trillion yuan, which is 174. But you have like a trillion of credit lines that are maturing on Monday. So it's actually going to be very little net. So it actually might not help. I also saw that the Chinese regulators are encouraging brokers not to allow people to short sell. I actually think that has the opposite effect. If you stop people from short selling, you're going to have very little short covering, and short covering actually helps the market go higher. Sander, how do you trade options? Also, how could I short stocks? I trade options. Actually, I do it on IG index, IG.com in the UK. You're betting on the options. So actually, I'm not really buying the options, but it's just like buying the options. And basically, if I think the market is going to go lower, I'll buy a put in the S&P. If I think silver is going to go up, I'll buy a call. But if you don't know about options, I don't recommend you trading them. You need to learn first. It took me months and years to learn about options, and I don't recommend people using them unless they know what it is. The thing about options, it's like buying insurance. So if I buy a put or a call, let's say I put 200 pounds down, I can't lose more than 200 pounds, but I can make 200 in 10 minutes, which is pretty good. If I buy a future, it's margined. You can lose. You have, let's say, £1,000 in your account. Market goes down very sharply. You could be losing more than what you put in. Or if you go short the market with the futures, the market goes up. Sky's the limit. Futures is more leveraged. I heard George Gammon's channel that most silver is a byproduct of metal. There are very few silver mines. Yeah, that's true. It's a byproduct of copper mines, Hecla Mining, Pan American Silver. There are a few silver mining companies. In Bernanke, we trust silver coin. Layala says options are very complex. Most people get into them too casually. Yeah, my experience is I got into options before I started working in finance. I was still at university. Knew a broker in Switzerland, and I liked it. And then when I started working in London, I worked for a futures and options firm. Yeah, I took courses. They sent me on courses about options. The head of my desk taught me a lot about options. So yeah, I've had a lot of experience trading options. You shouldn't really do it if you don't know what you're doing. Sander 81, 1981, how safe is IG for large portfolios? That's the other thing I would say. Personally, I don't leave much money in IG index. They could be okay, but I don't feel comfortable. What I'm doing is, well, if I make a profit on a trade, I take that profit and send it to my bank account and keep my account the same amount. Yeah, I think you need to be nimble, because if there is a lot of trouble in the markets, it could spread. You could have counterparty risk. You could make a winning trade and not get your money. So, but I'm being a little cautious here. I know people at IG Index, and I think not saying it's safe, or I don't know much about it, but it's a big company, fairly big. They're traded publicly. They're worth a few £billion. Isabella from Austria. Hi, Isabella. Paul Flamand, coronavirus, perfect excuse for US to blame the market drop. Yeah, it's a perfect excuse as well to as a scapegoat for, I think, a recession that's coming. We didn't know. A lot of people haven't been talking about the bond market. I did last week. I noticed that the curve's starting to invert again. The 3-month to the 10-year. We haven't seen the 10-year invert to the 2-year yet, and I think that's a bad sign. The Fed didn't do anything last week in terms of rates, but nor the Bank of England. But I think they're holding their fire for trouble ahead, and they will probably cut this year again. Low budget, the average trader loses $28,000 before they finally give up. Yeah, trading is not easy, not an easy thing, and you need to focus on it almost 24/7 these days. Yeah, born yearhead 2220 2020. It's a palindrome. It's the first time in 900 and I think 9 years that you can read the date backwards. It's the same date. I think the last time was 11th of November, 1111. Interesting. And it's Groundhog Day today as well. I liked that movie. I don't know if any of you have watched Groundhog Day. Yeah, Lord Humongous is a good day. 2:30. Chinese dentist, 2:30. It's a joke. Low budget viruses, a black swan of which there are many. Well, usually they're not very, they're quite rare, but who knows? Yeah, Bob Axelrod, I saw that. I'm not sure they've banned short selling, but they've recommended the regulator that brokers stop people from short selling. Don't know if they'll succeed. One thing that I said earlier about short selling is that usually people who sell short, when they make a profit, they cover their shorts. And the way to cover your short is to buy the stock back. And it actually, have you ever heard of a short covering rally? So I'm not sure if that's going to help. They probably will ban it. I don't think it is going to help if the market's going to go down. Resonator, why do you think silver is lagging gold for such a long time? Mainly because I see gold going up more as a monetary insurance phenomenon. It's not going up because all the other commodities are going up. It's going up as a monetary commodity or metal. Silver, of course, is both monetary and industrial. And I think that's why it's lagging. Maybe also a bit of manipulation by the bullion banks. And why would they do that? Well, because I think gold could be a lot higher. And one way to keep gold from really going to the moon is to keep silver down, because silver is a much easier market to manipulate. So those are a couple of reasons there, I think. Shane Sturgis, you're right. I mean, that's why I've been trying to accumulate as much gold as possible since 2002. That's the only thing governments and central banks know how to do, create all this phony credit. And they're going to keep doing it. I saw beginning of this year, first 2 months of this year, the Boris Johnson government issued 14 billion pounds extra in government bonds. That means more borrowing. And I saw they're going to go ahead with this HS2 train project, which is going to cost dozens or tens of billions of pounds. Migto, why does your channel have so many commercials? Well, yeah, my channel is monetized, and I spend a lot of time preparing for my videos. I'm doing this full time now. I've said today in my video earlier that I'm going to focus a lot more. So it's a way to cover my costs. Yeah, that's why. Usually there's a video in the beginning and a couple in the middle, depending on the length of the video. All my videos, though, you can skip them, so you don't have to watch them. Of course, there are people who contribute to my PayPal or Patreon, and that helps, but not near enough, of course. So ideally, I wouldn't want to have adverts, but yeah, that's the way it is. Lord Humaga says gold is used in industrial as well. Yeah, but not as much as silver, I would say. I guess for jewelry as well, I guess. John Meyer thinks maybe the gold silver ratio could quickly go to 93 and then go back to around 40. Yeah, it's possible. That's around the recent highs, I guess. YouTube welfare, yeah. People want everything for free. There's no such thing as a free lunch. I'm not a charity. I mean, I could be if I could, but I need an income as well, and I don't want to dip into my savings. And it's it's a develop. I started end of 2015, had 0 subscribers. It took about 6 months to get monetized. So yeah. Anyway. Yeah, that's right. Kathy Robinson, advertisements pay for my time and knowledge so that we need to hear. Yeah, you can hear it for free. That's the cost of hearing it for free, is some adverts. Uh, for Can Fit in, how much can we trust Chinese infection numbers? Probably can't trust that much. And I would say if the same thing was happening here or in the US or other countries, we probably couldn't trust it either. It's not because I think they're Chinese and you can't trust them. It was it his name Juncker from the EU who said that when the crisis gets really bad, they need to lie. So it's not only a Chinese thing. Lord Humongous is probably my first subscriber. Started following in 2015. Oliver Bristol. I don't follow Litecoin too much, but I think the crypto market is turning slowly. It's been just over 2 years since it topped, and I think it has potential. Litecoin probably going to do out well as well. Big chungus. I think I've practically got an economics degree from all the stuff I've learned from your videos over the last few years. Oh, that's good. Good to hear. Yeah, Bob says, Bob Axelrod, 2 camps. One thinks it's being exaggerated, coronavirus, and the other downplayed. I think an interesting and measured guy to watch is Chris Martenson, Peak Prosperity. He has a PhD from Duke University in pathology. He's not a practicing doctor, but he's got some really good information about what's going on there. Peak Prosperity, I recommend it. DMC thinks it's BS, the virus. It could very well be, but be as it may, it's impacting sentiment, I think, in the financial markets. It's going to impact the economy in China and probably around the world. Lord Humongous, we love to have you on mic in the night again, Mario. I'm going to be actually, I haven't told you guys, I'm going to be on with Lynette Zhang on the 11th of February. It's a Tuesday, I think. So in about 9 days' time. I'm looking forward to that. I was supposed to be on her show last year, but it got canceled for some reason. And they've contacted me again, Megan. So I'm going to be on Lynette Zhang's show. Yeah, I like Lynette. My wife likes listening to Lynette Zhang. Platinum price, low budget. Let me have a look at the chart. I don't really follow it too closely. Platinum. Yeah, it looks like platinum is the trend isn't very good right now. We topped just about around 1042. I think there's going to be some support around 925. So I think we could keep going lower in platinum. Platinum, of course, is more of an industrial precious metals. I think it's used a lot in catalytic converters. So yeah, I think we could go further down to 925 technically. Yeah. Okay. Luis Claudio, he's in Rio, Brazil. That's where I used to live. I did see the news of the Chinese injecting $174 billion, which is 1.2 trillion yuan. But the other thing is that a trillion yuan is maturing in loans tomorrow. So that means cash is going to come out of the market as well. So we'll have to wait and see. The markets are going to open in an hour and a half, the futures. So one thing that I think we're going to get this coming week, like last week, and maybe going forward for the next few weeks, is a lot of volatility up and down. Lynette Zhang sounds like Marge Simpson. Gur Olgi, hi Gur, nice to see you. Palladium, let's see. Let's see, Palladium. Palladium doesn't look, it looks like it gapped up earlier this year, closed the gap around 2,200, 300. Technically, really, it looks like we're forming a bear flag, and we could go continue lower in platinum right now. Yeah, Lord Humongous, they're not monetary metals. That's right. It's probably one of the reasons why I don't follow them as much. They're precious, but they're not monetary. Derek Barwise, 140 jobs lost in retail in UK. Do you mean 140,000? Because 140 is not that much. John, yeah, I actually watched Catherine Austin Fitts today, her interview with Greg Hunter. I've been following her for many years. I recently subscribed to her Solari report as well. I think she's really credible. I really like her judgment and her views. Yeah, Derek, 140,000. Yeah. Bilbo Stackings, thanks for keeping us in the know. Oh, you're welcome, Bilbo. Carlos Perez Santala, my old gold futures broker when I worked in the city. He's on the chat. He says the platinum palladium spread continues to widen as most speculators don't see manufacturing change. Palladium used in gasoline catalyst, platinum, and diesel. Yeah, I guess platinum, diesel. People are trying to wean off diesel, so I guess that could be maybe one of the reasons. Billy's moving around. Gold teeth. Well, the teeth is gold in the teeth. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's gold. Graham Manorino is more concerned about the oil price. Well, I think the oil price has gone down because the coronavirus. People think that China is going to slow down. They're going to be losing less energy, and that's why. But I don't think, yeah, it's a consequence of it. The other thing I saw is that a lot of Chinese economists are now saying that their economy is going to drop to below 5%. It might still sound a lot, but China's been growing like 6-7% for the last 30 years. I think last year it grew at 5.9%, which is the lowest level in 30 years. So below 5% is quite significant. Inflation spike coming. I think there will be inflation. And basically what inflation is the debasement of the currency. And when you print so much currency without, how can I say, increasing, yeah, when you print so much currency, you increase the supply of it, eventually people are going to lose, how can I say, they're going to devalue that currency versus gold and silver, which are real money. That happened like in the 70s. They inflated the system a lot in the 60s and early 70s, and then you had the inflation in the stagflation in the 70s, early 80s. And the other thing about inflation is that we're told that inflation's low because they call inflation the CPIs, which are the measures of price, and inflation is the increase in abnormal increase in money and credit, leading to higher prices. So they tinker with these CPI numbers. They say it's growing at 1-2%, that it's low, but it's more like 4, 5, or 6. And it's a sham. And I think that's why the general public is suffering. The people at the top are still doing well because their earnings beat inflation or the rising prices. Lone Wolf, would you do some analysis on the recent economy of Bangladesh surrounding Southeast Asian countries like India, Pakistan? I usually don't follow those economies. I'll have a look though. The one thing I heard about India a few months ago is that their car industry was dropping quite alarmingly. Car manufacturing. Gerald Celente's view of the Greatest Depression. I do listen to Gerald Celente, but I not that often. My wife probably listens more to him than I do. I'm not really familiar with that term, the Greatest Depression. Is that he means that what we're in right now? Because I think we're not really in a recovery. We haven't been since before the crisis of '08. So maybe that's what he means. And if that's what he means, I agree with him. Northern Dynasty, NAC got 2% boost after hours on Friday. Umpires post 2 words, overwhelming majority of what happens in the world nowadays. increased it exponentially in the last 100 years. Engineered truth. $111 thumbs up. That's pretty good. 252 people watching. In England, we call 111 a Nelson. I don't know. It's to do with cricket. So let's quickly have a look. Yeah, the Dow now, the weekend Dow market is down 50 right now. On Friday, of course, the Dow was down 2%, 603 points. So 2% isn't that big of a drop percentage-wise. The thing is, we haven't had a big correction for a long time. So now if you get a 3% drop, that's going to be like almost 1,000 points, like 700 points. So that's an interesting thing as well. Yeah, Lord, the Northern Dynasty, for those of you who don't know, they're supposed to have big, it's a junior mining exploration company in Alaska, but they've had a lot of trouble with the regulators and the environmentalists. But some people think that there's a lot of gold there, but it still hasn't evolved, but it could be a speculative investment. The ticker symbol is NAK. I'm not recommending it. I'm just talking about it. Is the Fed going to zero? Well, the bond yields are dropping quite sharply now. It is possible they could go to zero, but I think they'll be reluctant to move too far down. Lynn Gordon from Oslo was out for a stroll so late today, quiet before the storm. Carlos, thank you for the super chat donation. I appreciate it. Carlos and I, when I worked for MF Global, we used to do, what was it, MF Global? Or even ABN AMRO, I think. I used to do some futures, gold futures for our clients. I think it was MF Global. And MF Global didn't have a futures broker on the floor of the COMEX. So we used Carlos. He was our, even though I was a broker, he was our broker. And I did go visit him on the floor of the COMEX. And now there's no floor anymore. It's all done electronically. Luis Claudio, he just remembered that Zero Hedge suspension from Twitter. Zero Hedge had posted news regarding fabrication of coronavirus. Yeah, I think I saw that. I think it was someone who was on Twitter who wasn't happy with what they said and they reported them. I think it's a bit unfair. It's the problem with, I think, social media. It's like when we use the telephone, which you don't use that much anymore. You talk about anything on the telephone company is not going to come and cut you off. It's like a utility. And I think that's how YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, they are utilities. They shouldn't censor people. Resonator, thank you for the super chat donation. Yeah, the Dow could go to 35,000. Yeah, it could. I think the key support in the Dow is around just above 27,000. It's now like a trend line support. It used to be resistance. And that's the line that we broke out of last November when we went to make new all-time highs. John Meyer, I agree. The Dow will revert back to 1 ounce of gold, 1-to-1 ratio. That's when you sell your gold and buy stocks. Population control, yeah, that's another thing people are talking about. The Nova virus, not Nova virus, coronavirus. The watcher, yeah, I mean the COMEX used to, the futures contract and all the other contracts were traded on a exchange floor. That's what I meant. And now it's all done on the screens. Yeah, and it's I saw though that the chairman of the CFTC the other day came out. They've brought out new rules, position limits for hedgers, no, for speculators in commodities and metals. So yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to impact the bullion banks. So yeah, the CFTC is trying to limit position limits for speculators. Ralph Karzaboom, yeah, right now, I mean, the futures open in just over an hour. We have something here in the UK called weekend Dow, and that's down about 53 points right now. But I think we need to wait for the futures to open to see what happens. My feeling is we could open lower, but then rally tomorrow. And then if we rally, maybe I'd buy a put because I think we're going to go back down. Do you think the Dow should be on par with an ounce of gold? Well, that happened. That happened in 1980. That was the last time that happened. It was 1-to-1. And the other thing that happened with gold when it went up to 887.50, that was January 21st, 1980. With that price, the balance sheet of the Fed was 135% backed by gold. But that doesn't stay forever. That means that things have rebalanced. So yes, I think the Dow Gold ratio will one day rebalance down to 1 or very near to 1. It doesn't mean to say that I think it should always be there, but what that will mean is that real money gold has been, they've rebalanced the system because right now they've inflated it so much. In 1980, the national debt in the US was just under $1 trillion. Now we're almost at 24 trillion. It's not sustainable. And that's what gold does. It helps rebalance the system. And why? Well, because gold is the ultimate, it's money. It's the most liquid monetary asset there is. It's accepted everywhere. Someone might say, oh, but you can't use it in the shop. No, you can't because there are legal tender laws. The only reason that the money that we use today is accepted is because it's forced upon us. We need to, there's someone here that needs to be removed. Odd Pepper. Remove him. All right. And also hide user. We don't want people like that. Okay. Ralph, my opinion, maybe a short squeeze and then a free fall. Yeah, I think the if there is a crash, it will be protracted. It will take 12 to 18 months, but we could be starting it now. I think there's a lot of complacency as well. People think the Fed has got their put ready to stop the drop, but will they succeed? Sanders says the entire U.S. stock market is based on buybacks. Yeah, interesting. I saw a story that J.P. Morgan is complaining that their stock price is too high to do buybacks. That's a first world problem. Let's get rid of another troll, Isaiah Campbell. Okay. James Todd says he's sorry he was dropping off the grandchildren. That's okay. Graham Hobbs thinks we're going to wobble now and crash in October to celebrate my birthday, October 3rd. Gap Up Asian Open. The thing is, the Chinese market has been closed since the 24th of January. So it will probably open down compared to that day, but it will probably be higher than most people expected it to open prior to the Chinese officials announcing an injection of liquidity. Yeah, stock splits. They don't really change the value of the company. They just make each share worth less, but it's still valuation-wise, it's still the same. It probably would help even more if you do a stock split. It would even help even more the value because people think, oh, it's cheaper now, and they'll buy it. No, Furkan Fidan, do you have thoughts going back to Brazil to live there? Not really. No. I'm happy here in the UK. Maybe if my wife was Brazilian, we might think of going back. But my wife is English. She has been to Brazil. But no, I think, yeah, Brazil is, it's a strange place. There's a lot of opportunities, but there's a lot of problems as well. Everywhere there's problems. But I've been away from Brazil for so long now. And the rest of my family is in Europe as well. So Aaron Levy says he's $10,000 away from paying off his mortgage, being completely debt free. Well, actually, that's true, debt free. But as Lynette Zhang says, if you have to pay real estate tax, or in the UK, if you have to pay council tax, you're not really don't own your house really, because they can come and fine you for not paying your real estate tax. Or so yeah, no, I know what you mean though. That's good that you won't have a mortgage. Let's remove Rippon's production. Remove. I don't know what the hell's what's going on here with these people. Lord Humongous, are you here? We need some moderators to get rid of these. Okay. Gold in Fort Knox. Yeah, I think it's there, the gold. It's just whether the U.S. Treasury has leased it out. So whether it's unencumbered. Celtic, not what will Brexit do to the euro? I don't think it really has much of an impact. The UK still uses its own currency. It's difficult to say, really. I think the value of the euro depends more on the monetary policy and the debt levels in the EU. Sorry. Hiker 9, does the Queen own the City of London? No, she doesn't. Uh, the Queen actually, the Lord Mayor, he's the guy who runs London, the City of London. I think the Lord Mayor is elected every year, annually. She actually has to walk behind him. So, no, she's not the sovereign in the City of London. 271 watching. That's pretty good. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. We're getting some trolls here who are making some really nasty comments. We need to keep an eye on them. Ray Dalio, cash is trash. Well, technically, the currency we use is not cash. They're promissory notes. I know it's called cash, but I agree with them. Cash, you keep cash in the bank, in 5 years' time, you're going to be buying 20% less or more. Scott, the board, yeah, British sovereigns are the best, in my opinion, gold coins to have in the UK because they're legal tender. So that means there's no capital gains on it because they're money. Yeah, that's right. William the Conqueror gave City of London a deal when he came over. City of London even has someone who represents them in the Houses of Parliament, and he's not elected. Galactic Dude, forgive my ignorance, but could you explain what the Dow 4-ounce measure means? Love your channel, long-time fan. Well, basically, gold, of course, is the best measure of value. It has been for thousands of years. It's money. So the Dow gold ratio is basically how many ounces of gold you need to buy one Dow. So if it's 1-to-1, you need, let's say it's 1,000 ounces and the Dow's at 1,000, it's 1-to-1. Back in 2000, you needed about 46 ounces of gold to buy the Dow. So gold was very undervalued and the Dow was very overvalued. Right now it's around 17. And historically, if you look back the last 120 years, like in 1932, that ratio dropped to around 2. During the Great Depression, it dropped to 1 in 1980. And since 2000, it's been going down from 46. And usually that means when it goes down to 1, it means that the system has rebalanced. I still think that paper assets are overvalued relative to money or gold. And that's what it is. How many ounces of gold you need to buy a Dow. And then when you get back to 1, you can start again inflating the system. Hiker 9, there are not many people living in the City of London. It's mostly offices and yeah, it's all commercial, mostly commercial property. Yeah, they're English. It's still considered part of the UK, but it's kind of a special status. Yeah, there's a lot of trolls today. I thought we'd gotten rid of them. Dennis Hansen, I enjoy your channel. What's going to happen next week in the stock market? I think it's going to be very volatile again. Yeah. If I had to bet, and I might bet on it, is that on every rally you get intraday, I would probably sell into it, buy a put. Yeah, difficult to say. I think there's still a lot of uncertainty surrounding what's going on in China. Bank of England was nationalized in 1946, but I still think the private banks still have a lot of control and say what happens at the Bank of England. What about an idea that Ray Dalio is also trying to push markets in his desired direction? I think it's hard for one person to push the market the way they want, even though he has a big hedge fund. So, thank you, Dennis. The watcher says, Mario, sell your London home, move to South Wales, where I am. You could buy a farm down here for the same money. That's true. My daughter's thinking of moving to Wales. Her boyfriend is from Wales. They finished university last year. I think she's going to move there. He's from South Wales, but they're looking to maybe move to North Wales. But yeah, Wales looks interesting. Good value for money. Sanjit, do you think the UK will survive its current shape by when? By that I mean when Scotland independent, Northern Ireland will unite with the Republic of Ireland. I don't think. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible that Scotland might leave, and even Wales. Some people want independence for Wales. I don't think it. Ireland. I don't think they've ever been united with the Republic of Ireland. I think Northern Ireland has always been part of the UK. It was the Republic of Ireland that separated from the UK in 1920, so they can't reunite. But I guess Ireland. I don't think Northern Ireland will become part of the Republic of Ireland. Or if they try to, there will be a lot of trouble up there. Isabel, I did sell my silver call. Let me see. I did sell it, and it was a good trade. Let's see what I bought it at. Where is it? The history. All right, let's see the silver calls. I bought them at 7.6 and I sold them at 17. So that was a nice little profit. And I'm looking, I'm looking to do a little bit more of that, especially if you see sharp drops during the day when gold is not doing anything. I think it's a good strategy. Hiker, who do you think is behind Soros? Do you think there are powers behind the Rothschilds? Actually, that's an interesting question about Soros, because when I worked as a futures broker in London, there was a futures broker called SE Banken, which is a Swedish bank. And we traded for one of my colleagues traded for Soros Asset Management, and they used to give up all their trades. So they had an account with SC Banken. So I think it's the Wallenberg family who own SC Banken, Skandinaviska, and Skilda Banken. I think they are the people behind Soros, the Wallenbergs. They own almost all of Sweden, the Wallenbergs. There's probably people behind the Rothschilds. I think some people say it's the Italian black nobility. So I think David the Rothschild, the Paris Rothschild, he's married to a woman called Aldo Brandini, which is connected to the Vatican. So you could be right. Relaxing Woody, talking about gold, whether he should wait to get into gold. Well, if you're a trader, maybe not. A short-term trader, no. But I look at gold more as insurance, as money. So I try to get in dollar cost average whenever I can. So I actually think it's gold is going to continue to go up, or the currencies are going to continue to drop. But we're still below the highs of 1920 from 2011. Black trailer. Gold has already topped this year. Yeah, we got to 1610. I personally think that won't be the top, but you could be right. So Black Trailer thinks, I think you're wrong, Black Trailer. The top was 1610, not 1600. So you got the wrong price there. I'm not concerned about the price of gold. And 50 years ago, you never said the price of gold. It was the exchange rate of gold to dollars. So I think the exchange rate of the dollar is going to keep dropping versus gold because they're creating more and more paper dollars. They're not going to stop, and gold is can't be created out of thin air. That's the simple thing. Okay, I'll take a few more questions. We've been on for quite a while, hour and 13 minutes. Two or three more questions. What do you think about the Swiss economy? I lived in Switzerland years ago. I have family there. I was there recently. It's the standard of living is very good. I think it's a little bit leveraged, a lot of debt. When I lived there in the late 80s, early 90s, there wasn't as much debt. There wasn't a housing bubble like we have there now. So I think it's not as healthy as it used to be, but it's still relatively good compared to other European countries. Billy's doing well. He's fine. We had a nice walk this morning. Moved to Canada. Well, you need to get me a visa. Are you welcome, Isabel? A lot of comments coming here. Billy, he's holding on to his silver. Yeah, he's bullish. Will you watch the Super Bowl? Probably not. It's quite late here. It's 11:30. It starts. And to be honest, I like American football, and I used to follow it when I went to university in the States, but I haven't followed it that much. I see that it's Kansas City versus the 49ers. 49ers, yeah, they have a good history. Kansas City, I didn't realize they're doing that well. Dennis, I haven't heard about, there is speculation that they will back their currency with gold. They could. Uh, they're they're probably interested in digital currency. They do have to back it by something, I think, if they want to be a serious currency. That's how the dollar became the reserve currency, because they had a lot of gold. So without gold, you can't become a reserve currency. Isabel Bozo, do you think Italy owns its gold? I think the Bank of Italy holds on to it, and I'm not sure the Bank of Italy is really represents Italy. I think a few politicians there some months ago said that they wanted to take the gold from the Bank of Italy, and that wasn't taken very well by the ECB or the bankers. Yeah, but they supposedly they had like 2,500 tons, which is a big amount. All right. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Thank you for all the super chat donations. And yeah, have a great rest of the weekend if you're in the US. If you're in Asia, have a good Monday. And I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.